I am your host, Nicole Will, and we thank you for joining us as we navigate the world with your aging loved one. We are here to come alongside elders, family members, and the senior living community as we explore the world of aging and elder care with helpful resources, informative interviews, and approachable conversations. We get to do this together, so join us on our journey, and this is the willGather podcast. Hi, everyone. We are so excited to be able to introduce to you Dr. Krystal Culler. She is the founder of the Virtual Brain Health Center. She has over 15 years of experience working with individuals with brain health concerns, their families, and advocacy organizations. They really provide practical solutions to augment brain health through online services, and we are lucky. It's a treat to be able to have her join us today with all of her knowledge. Krystal, welcome. Thank you for visiting with us.
I'm so excited to be here with you today. Thank you so much for the invitation and your time to have a chat about brain health.
Yes, I have been following along with all that you've been doing, and you've just given us such a wealth of knowledge and a new perspective on brain health. I love to hear how people come to that place. And could you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and how you came to the place to create this amazing program for people?
Sure. Thank you so much for asking. And I share a little bit about this each time I have the opportunity to go on the journey of what brought me to brain health. And so, from an educational standpoint, early on, I didn't know you could major in what is called gerontology, so the study of aging. Once I found out you could get a major in that in college, I was thrilled to be able to do so. I feel so fortunate for having my life enhanced by such loving grandparents and aging adults that were neighbors that adopted my sister and I as their grandparents. And so I think if I did not have those wonderful experiences early on, I would not be the social gerontologist that I am today, meaning that I like to help people live a happy, healthy life in the way that they can, as independent as possible. When it comes to the brain health aspect, I became more interested in that as I continued through my journey in graduate school. At that time, I had my own seizure event right after I was married, a few months after that.
Oh, no.
And if I look back on that time in my life, I was probably a sitting duck for some type of health issue. At that time, I was a newlywed, as I had said. My grandmother was living with dementia, and she was on the last few stages of her life in her last few months. My mother at that time was going through a health issue. We knew it was something neurological related. So I was in the final months of my graduate school career. It was the first time I had gotten health insurance after 2 years. I was just getting married, so I got on my husband's health care, was having my own health issues, being a long distance caregiver from my grandmother, who luckily I had such a rewarding relationship with. She responded well for me, was helping my mother navigate some of her own healthcare issues. And I wasn't doing the things that were good for my own health and well being, and resulted in having some kind of catastrophic health events that led up to a 5-minute seizure. So I kind of got the jolt that said it was the time to take care of my own health and well being. It was a 2-year process of getting back to some level of norm. And now I have to work hard with a neurologist to manage my own brain health and well being. So I have to practice what I preach with other people, so to speak. And it just led me to finding my own path and finding a better way to navigate the healthcare system, which led me to finding a doctorate in behavioral health and management, but also wanting to share information for people in practical ways that they can add it to their health and well-being in those everyday lives.
Your story really touches on so many things where you found gerontology through your relationships and also understanding, okay, there's this program that really exists that I think a lot of people don't know that it's available. We're kindred spirits in that way. I was in college and was having other majors and never really felt the connection until I discovered There's something called gerontology that's available out there, and was able to study that as well. And then your personal journey with your own health. I think it is meant to be that all of those moments happened for you that led you to now be in this space to be able to provide such valuable resources and support for older adults and families as they're looking at understanding their brain health and their health. So I'm happy you're here and all that led you to that place. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It's one of those things when you go through something, you're not exactly sure what it is that it's teaching you, but it's
Mm-hmm.
the next thing. And I just feel fortunate. It's been a way to blend my career and my personal experiences, but it's also led me opportunities to support those I love and care about directly in
Mm-hmm.
my family, including myself, my immediate family, my extended family, my
Mm-hmm.
friends, but also those that I serve through my work in the communities that I work with. And so it's been very rewarding to date, and I'm excited to see what the future holds as well.
And your experience really gives you the perspective to offer the empathy behind what you're doing because you're able to really relate to the people that you serve by your own experiences. And I think that that's really invaluable, and people connect to companies and people that can provide that perspective. So, so great that you could put that together.
Yes, it's been a learning curve and still a work in progress, as I like.
Yeah, aren't we all?
That is
It
so true.
is. It really is. There's so much focus on brain health right now, from computer apps to vitamin supplements, and it can be seen as such a broad term. How would you describe brain health?
It is. I'm so glad you've asked this question. It's been something that's really come online and more mainstream in recent years, from the media to even what we see being published in journal articles, including brain health. And we've come, I think, a long way from when the World Health Organization back in 1946 talked about just health in general. And that definition said health was a complete state of mental, physical, and social well being, not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. And we thought of brain health initially meant the absence of disease in relationship to your brain, and that could be neurodegenerative types of diseases, or it could be even mental health states. But we know that it is more than that. And so the way I like to think about brain health is it's thinking, feeling, and moving, and the processes involved in those functions. And so many other people, I come from the health and wellness side. And when we're thinking about the well being of your brain, it will look into more aspects of that. So, how you're living your life, the things that you're encompassing every single day in your activities, from your physical health, your mental health, your spiritual health, your social health.
Mm-hmm.
All of those components really add up to make a difference. And I know we're going to chat in a little while about those different models and what that all can include.
Mm-hmm.
But really, your brain health is something that's lifelong, and it's for everyone. And it's not linked to a disease state or a chronic health condition or an acute health condition. And so I think that's a great way to let people really start to understand that brain health really is this broad umbrella term, and it applies to people of all ages.
Like you said, it fits into so many different components and that full picture of all that goes into brain health. I love that you just described all of the different categories that fall under that large brain health umbrella. Do you feel like people misconstrued or get confused between what brain health is and what mental health is?
Well, I think there's different ways to look at that discussion. Coming from the health and wellness perspective, for me, I think brain health is more of that umbrella term,
Mm-hmm.
and then it encompasses your mental health. And for many people, whether it's your physical health or your mental health, it is hard that brain health doesn't come in as part of that discussion. And for people that would be having some type of physical health issue or mental health issue that they're seeing a practitioner for or someone for help and assistance with, brain health is probably part of that discussion. It's hard to leave a doctor's office or a mental health professional's office and they're just going to say, not do physical exercise, not be working and prioritizing your self-care through meditation, through the foods that you're eating to nourish your body. And those are part of the brain health discussion.
Mm-hmm.
And what we typically know is when you're doing the best that you can for your brain health and your overall well-being, you're giving your mental health that boost. But there's still a time where people need to seek help for their mental health and their well-being, just like their physical health and well-being as well. So I like to see as brain health as kind of the backdrop in that piece, but it plays an important part in your physical health and your mental well-being as well.
If we're looking at family members and memory care and cognitive decline, do you think there's a misconception that if you have a loved one with cognitive decline or living in a memory care, that there isn't a chance to improve that brain health? What does brain health look like in those settings?
I'm so glad you asked this question. And I think it's really starting an issue that's coming to the forefront as part of the discussion around brain health, memory care, and a lot of it has to do with training and understanding this issue and understanding that brain health is for everyone. We've had a shift away from disease states, including those related to the brain, and focus on care and that care component, especially in memory care. And so understanding what does brain care or care for your brain look like? And that's a brain health and a brain healthy lifestyle. And that's how people live their lives day to day, the activities that they do, how they're spending their time in a meaningful way, and what they're doing day to day. And how do we create those environments then for them to thrive? How do we give them meaning to what they're doing with their most precious time, which is their resource? How do we make sure they're finding that enjoyable? So there are a lot of people that are living with dementia and care that they can do to improve their quality of life, to delay the progression of their illness. And that's brain health. And I know we're going to get to talking about what are all those different facets of brain health. But when we really start to think about that, what does delay the disease mean under the brain health umbrella? It's quality of life, doing the things you want to do, enjoying the activities that are important to you. So again, the focus is on you. It's very individualized for that person. So whether we call that person-centered care, it's very important that we start to recognize that there are things that people still can do regardless of the diagnosis, a diagnosis related to the brain. And that comes back to that care component, whether it's memory care, it's brain care, and it's care for everyone. And I think it's an exciting time to know that we're actually able to do those brain healthy lifestyle components and still have an impact for people with a disease diagnosis related to their brain or not.
What I see is really valuable as even being in that memory care setting. And like you talked about, that person-centered care and quality of life, even though they might not, depending on what stage they're in, have an understanding of digesting what we are communicating with them, they still can feel the sense of being valued and appreciated. And that can really fall under that whole umbrella of, are they experiencing an environment that aid into listening to their emotions or their gestures and their comfort and supporting those family members and having those relationships? I think it really creates a space of valuing the whole person and taking into account they're just not a diagnosis and they're just not a behavior, and that it really is understanding that full picture, which is so important when you think of it doesn't have to be this environment that is just responding to actions, but can really be more proactive in how do we give them a place to live in an environment that just fosters that continued brain health and growth.
No, and I think you brought up some excellent points along with what you shared is absolutely correct. And it's that people with cognitive decline, dementia, and brain health concerns, they have a lot to offer, And even individuals with dementia can continue to learn new things. And so it's up to us to create those environments, those programs, and those opportunities for meaningful engagement. And professionals in the field that are skilled and have those trainings, they're able to rise to that occasion. I have been a part of teams that have been able to do that and do that in a meaningful way, and to watch individuals flourish when they're involved in those programs. And for many of us that are on the outside watching or observing that, we have to realize the expectations for a program is different. So if we were thinking of a lifelong learning program for someone that does not have some type of cognitive impairment, the expectation is a learning output. You would say a learning outcome. But for someone with some type of cognitive impairment, the expectation would just be engagement in the program. And so you can see that when people with memory loss or some type of cognitive impairment are involved in a lifelong learning program, if they're engaged, how they're interacting, the types of questions that they're asking. And it's not necessarily an hour later or even a day later that they recall anything from that program. So the output is different. So the purpose and intention for the quote unquote lifelong learning program changes. So we're able to adjust those expectations. We can design programming with a purpose and an intent. The outcome has changed, and we can watch people still flourish. And so the notions of the things that are still brain healthy, of meaningful engagement and lifelong learning, still occur for individuals. And when we see it happen in those environments, it's very rewarding. And we see reminiscence happen too. We just tap into their remaining strengths, which is long-term memory. And we have opportunities to pull that out and let people still thrive in meaningful ways. So the way of an old organization I worked with was saying, design their best brain day. And when we're able to do that, that gives people a lot of purpose for their own brain health optimization, and letting people who have those skills, or if not, give them opportunities to learn how to do that. And when you're going into environments that are set up for people to thrive, it's exciting to see.
The statement you made about focusing on their strengths, which is that long-term memory, I think a lot of times we focus on what their weaknesses are or what they can't do, and just shifting that mindset to focus on those strengths can be just so life-giving, not only for the care provider, but also for the resident to be able to feel empowered and valued in a way of focusing on those strengths. So I love that statement. What model of brain health initiatives do you align with or find successful?
I've had the opportunity to see some different models of brain health and wellness, and I thought I would share a few just so your listeners as well as yourself can see where the overlap is. And I've had opportunities, which I'm always grateful for, is to create models of brain wellness, or I've workshopped with organizations to find ones that their organization is able then to support. A simple one might be mind, body, and spirit. We've heard it, and many people can recognize that fairly easily, of saying they understand what that means. If you then go to Alzheimer's Research and Prevention Foundation, they have 4 pillars of brain health that they focus on, and it's diet and supplements, stress management, exercise, and spiritual fitness. If you go to AARP, they look at Keep Sharp program. They look at Move, Discover, Relax, Nourish, and Connect. And many people have heard of the Cleveland Clinic, and they tell you to get moving, eat smart, control risk, rest well, keep sharp, and stay connected. So I kind of walked you through one that has 3, 4, 5, and 6 areas.
Yes.
And you can tell they're all fairly similar. And they're focusing on the similar aspects of brain health. And typically what happens is they'll talk about it as either a pillar, a model, or an area. And it's really what an organization can search that's research informed, or evidence-based. And I like to say, whatever your organization is able to do, it may be programming they're already do that they can leverage. And if you're able to design a model. So our virtual brain health center, when we set out to say we really wanted to create a model that we could support, we knew we were virtual. We knew that be one of our, strengths and or limitations at times, depending on it. We decided that we could support cognitive engagement, social connections, personal well-being, and physical activity for people, because we knew we could do those areas of brain health well, knowing we would be delivering virtual programming and services for people. And you could go to our website and see what else that entails. But typically what you'll see is organizations support a model of what they're able to do and deliver through their services and what their organization has to offer. And much of it is a lot of overlap, as you've seen.
I love how you laid that out, how you created the virtual brain center, being able to really focus on here's what we know we can do really, really well virtually, and have it be implemented in practical ways for people to get the most out of all of those components that make up that brain health umbrella. What are some of those key factors that can improve and maintain brain health? What are you seeing? What are those things that you go, okay, here's, if we were to outline what that looks like, here's what can improve and maintain that brain health?
Well, I like to summarize 2 reports. And so I know it will sound a bit like a list for you, but I'll do my best to say if we can put your brain and your body into your environment. I'll start with your brain. You want education as much as you can as early in life as possible. And then you want cognitive activity. So you want to continue to engage your brain throughout your life. You want to then protect your brain. So try to avoid head trauma, head injuries, and traumatic brain injury. You want to monitor hearing loss. You want to rest your brain and sleep 7 to 9 hours per night as an adult. You want to monitor your mental health, especially depression, we know is a brain health risk. And then this is the one factor that will take you from your brain down to your body, because it's a whole body system, is stress. You want to manage your stress and make this a priority. Avoid daily stressors that you can, especially chronic stress, ongoing throughout your life. When you get to your body, you want to have a good heart. Avoid cardiovascular disease. Monitor stroke history as well. Your blood pressure, and avoid hypertension. You want to then, as you move down to your midsection, you want to monitor your weight, your BMI, and you might be hearing more about your hip to waist ratio. This is another measurement we're seeing a lot more research come out on, or healthcare talking about. You want to not smoke, and you want to limit your alcohol. And then when you get down to your feet, you want to get those moving and engage in physical exercise. Pretty much the global recommendation, even outside of the US, 150 minutes, moderately intense exercise, meaning it raises your heart rate, and about 2 days of strength training a week if you can. And now that we've covered your brain and your body, we're going to put you in your environment. You want to watch for air pollution. That's been a new one that came online last year. And you want to watch for social isolation. So that means staying connected to other. Those have been the bigger ones that have come out in research.
That is a really great diagram for people when they're thinking of, okay, my brain health. And if you can start, like you said at the top, with your brain and work your way down and trigger some of those memories of what we can do to improve and maintain that. You know, in typical caregiver fashion, a lot of our listeners are older adults, or they're caring for a loved one that is aging. And so we typically focus on other people that we're caring for, and we don't do a really good job of thinking about ourselves and our own self-care. What advice would you give those caregivers as they care for their family, and how can they shift that focus a little bit while still really caring for their loved one, but also focusing on their own brain health?
Yeah, I'm glad you've asked this question, because this is a project that I'll actually be working on this year into next year, is to develop, it's a grant that I've received as a global brain health leader through the Alzheimer's Association, Alzheimer's Society, and Global Brain Health Institute, is to develop a carer educational training that would infuse brain health and memory care for carers of individuals earlier stage memory loss. Because I think this is an important part that is missing for carer education. And it is something that is a journey that, if we think about it, people are on for quite a few years. If you're getting a diagnosis earlier stage, and it's important for carers to know about brain health for themselves as much as the person that they are providing care for. And so if we're thinking about it at just a very basic level, is when your brain's working right, you're set up for better success, whether it's your overall health and well-being, your decision making for any decision that you're going to make, as well as the care that you're providing. And we know being a caregiver can put people at risk for many different things. And typically, if we were just going to summarize it, when it comes to being a caregiver for your health, you can be at an increased risk of loneliness, depression, inactivity, because you're not able to get out to some of the things that you would typically be doing, which can lead to a decrease in quality of life for people. This is typically linked to chronic inflammation, which is really the underlying basis of many health conditions for people. And that can be a laundry list of health conditions. And I share this not to have scare tactics for people, but just to say this is in general what we know. And so what I try to encourage carers when I speak with them is to say, you have to prioritize your self-care. And the way to think about this is your time, your money, and your energy are your resources. We typically don't think about our time as much as one of our resources. But if there's one way to look at your day and figure out a way to carve out a little bit of time for yourself, a way to find out some way to do something that will refuel you, refuel your happiness, your joy, whatever that would be. And of course, this would be individualized. But what we can do to put yourself on your to-do list and slowly build that in and make it a habit. Make some of these things for brain health that I gave examples of, and I know that was a lot of examples. But if you can start to work on one thing slowly, make it a habit, build in the next one. Even if you just start on saying, I can start to hydrate myself properly every day. And if you're taking care of hydration for yourself, it's likely you're going to be watching the hydration of the person you're caring for, which means later on down the line, they might not have as many UTIs, or they won't be at risk for UTI because your sensation for thirst decreases. You can be dehydrated in as little as 2 hours. So when you're already building these habits up, you're eliminating some of these other risks that are very high potential down the line. And you're just building these in earlier in on the journey. So how can you start to do that? And we know this from other health research is when you want to get healthy, you hang out with the healthiest people you know, and it rubs off. But when you're doing that in a carer type of a relationship, as things may change for the person you're providing care for, if you're likely making some of those healthier choices, they're being set up on that brain healthier path too, at least until it's later in the journey when care needs shift and change. And so thinking about ways that you could do that for yourself and your loved one. And the way to think about it is it's about you and your time, and that's good for your brain health and well-being, as well as the relationship for the person you're providing care for. And so all of us know if we can take a little bit better care of ourselves, it makes us a little more kinder, in a healthier place for us to give towards others, whatever it is that we're trying to do, whether it's our knowledge, our job, especially if we're in a carer role, which I have done paid caregiver roles, informal caregiver as well. You've got to set yourself up for what you can do, but don't overwhelm yourself, a little at a time. And the brain health research is showing is it's not too late to make those habit changes in small steps. So those little small steps can lead to really big, lasting habits and impact. So don't overwhelm yourself thinking, I'm not taking care of myself. Start small. Couple minutes a day. Do a meditative hand washing, something you have to do every day. But if you can start building those things in, those small pick-me-ups, those small brain breaks, meditation could be one, but things you're already doing in your routine, try to fold in those moments of self-care. And then over time, that will help build you up to stronger brain healthy habits for down the line as care needs change and become more dynamic.
That's good advice. Building in those moments that most of us that are in their caregiving role are probably doing, washing our hands, folding the laundry, taking those tasks that are a part of our day and shifting maybe our mindset around it, doing those meditations. And really the encouragement you gave was that progress, not perfection. Those little steps day by day can then lead up to big changes. I loved how you focused on the hydration piece, and really with brain health, I think a lot of people don't realize that dehydration can actually also masks itself as dementia, confusion. And so being able to, even one small change like that of focusing on hydration can probably eliminate some future challenges and concerns down the road. You laid that out very well. Thank you.
No, and I loved your comment about what you can do during the time when you're unfocused or take a brain break or a pause of practicing even just gratitude or thinking about things during the day that made you smile, brought you happiness, rather than I know I'm guilty of it. If I'm folding laundry, my mind just wanders, what's the next thing I have to do? What's on my to-do list today? What needs to go on the grocery list? And reframe it as, what has gone well for me today? What brought me moments of joy? What was funny? And when you're able to unwind or unfocus that time and see what pops up rather than rushing through the next thing, that can be just ways to give yourself that extra boost and see what might just happen. And I loved that you had mentioned that too. I was reading that earlier this week in a book, and I thought that's a nice way of sometimes do we get ideas in the shower and you wonder why, but there are other ways to build that into your day rather than just the shower.
Yes, there's so many mundane things we do that are not super exciting. And why not just replace the best we can our mindset with some of that, kind of shift it. So, and it helps to talk about it because it is seemingly an easy thing to do, but a lot of times we forget about it, and when we aren't talking about it, we're not encouraged by others to continue that or to do it or to think about it. So it's always helpful. A lot of times I've noticed I'm not only a caregiver also in my life for people that I love to visit, but also a part of caregiver groups. And the fear that comes up is my loved one is suffering from a cognitive impairment. Am I going to have the same challenges as I get older? And there's fear around it, and they can see that brain health is deteriorating. What hope could you pass along to people that are concerned about this?
One of the things is what we're learning about the brain is continuous. There's new research that comes out every day, most likely. I get a lot of updates weekly that summarizes them, and then go and read the articles that are following a line for the research I follow. And Dr. Sanjay Gupta's book had just come out for staying sharp, how to stay sharp with AARP's research. And previously, we were stating that brain health was around 70% lifestyle, 30% genetics. His book is now saying 90% lifestyle,
wow,
10%.
So that's hopeful because we have control. Yes.
That's really not motivating for most people. I mean, the 70-30 split was, pretty motivating, but now we're talking 90% lifestyle.
Wow.
And when we dive into about that 10% of genetics of what we know, it's typically linked to the APOE gene. And for those that have early onset Alzheimer's disease, it's less than 1% that directly have that gene or genetic component. So it's a very small percentage of the population, and we're still learning a lot more about that. And for those that do have APOE4, and we look at the genetics, some that have it don't end up with Alzheimer's disease. So even necessarily being a carrier of the gene doesn't mean that you present it. So we know if you have the genetic component, all it does is put you at risk for Alzheimer's disease. It's not a direct per se correlation at this moment in time. And so we're learning so much more about the research, but we also know the emphasis on lifestyle. And what makes me excited about the brain health area is it's not so straightforward, but we do know with a lot of the dementias and brain health is it's 20 to 30 years presented earlier in the brain. So even if you were to get diagnosed at 65, that would be impacting someone like myself right now. I'm 35. So it could, potentially be me right now. And so it should be really motivating to people who are younger. So a lot of it is saying, not only are we talking prevention, but we're really talking brain health for people of all ages and moving it forward. So people of early to midlife should be thinking about their brain health and well-being. And we still know it's not a perfect science, but we know doing these things wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing to do overall, not only for your health, for your productivity, for your stress, for all these other outcomes we know of moving a little more, sleeping well at night, eating a little better, isn't going to have these detrimental effects, but we know of all these positives of what it can do when you fold these things into your life. But if we really are starting to think about Alzheimer's disease and these dementias of really midlife and potentially younger adults, that opens the door for a lot of different discussions to be having. And when I had read that and I thought, well, we've always heard it, right? We knew it was 20, 30 years. But now it's people my age, it's my peers, and really it's people 10 years out of college better start thinking about these things now.
Exactly. Wouldn't you say that a lot of the conversation does tend to focus on an older group of people? And so what we're missing is, and I love that you touched on motivating our younger generation, because that's where it begins and that's where it starts. And that's where we can start to create the change, because when you referenced it's 90% lifestyle, the hope in that is that we are responsible and have some control in how we decide that we're going to age and what our brain health will look like. So in some ways, while fear is always a part of our life because we see our loved ones that are going through uncomfortable situations and we want to take away that pain, and we also are a part of it, and there's fear surrounding that. But the hope is that we also can do things to be able to set ourselves up for success. And that can start when we are younger. It's like you said, a lot of that research and that science is available, but actually really putting it into practice and taking away really that advice to be able to start making change now for a better future.
Yes, and I think people understanding and getting that information and probably putting it into perspective for themselves. And from my work in doing brain health programming and services for aging adults in general, it was supposed to target quote unquote older adult populations, but we had hit people in their 30s up to centenarians. And so how amazing is that? But I have always found the people that had came in that were actively aging were the most motivated, as well as those that want to learn more. And when people would learn about brain health and the science behind it, what was the latest information that we knew, they would take up this information, they would apply it into their daily lives of what would fit into their routines, what they could manage. And for all of us, we know that looks a little different. And most of the messaging on brain health is we have these blanket statements. So exercise 150 minutes a week, and we know you can chunk that out differently. So if it's 30 minutes a day, 3 10-minute intervals, we know has pretty similar effects as a 30-minute session. It's just the idea of getting that movement in and making it work for people. And that's really the messaging for most of the brain health is we haven't quite figured it all out, but really is it people are doing it and it's making a difference in their daily lives. And we're now starting to be able to track that a lot more through these larger trial studies and following people, but realizing there's going to be this level of making it personal for people, like diet.
Right.
We have lots of variations on that. So using it, I like AARP's idea of nourish to flourish, realizing that it's going to look different from people's personal preferences, from biology to health conditioning that they manage, from ethnicity and culture and food preferences. But there's still, we know how to eat well enough to fuel ourselves to prosper. And that's the notion and messaging of brain health. So I get very excited about this idea. But from doing the work and being able to develop programming and seeing people and knowing that it makes a difference and that we're starting to get to the research that can track it, the next few years, probably the next decade, we'll be actually able to roll out even more research. And for me, it will be exciting to see, but it's been the most rewarding of working with people that know once they come in and just can learn simple techniques, like a few different breath techniques or breathing things that they can use that just help them fall asleep. And then that's not necessarily an issue that they might have to talk to their doctor about or is a concern that then keeps them up even more. That's powerful. And so I'm talking about simple things that people can actually use in their daily lives that has a difference for them. And that's what keeps me going and teaching about brain health, the science, and an exposure to different things that people can fold in for them to use.
You have such a fresh perspective on it. That's one of the things that drew me to you was your passion for it. I could listen to you talk for a long time all about it. One thing we really do want to hear about is what is the Virtual Brain Health Center? And you've created this. Kind of walk us through what is it that you guys offer? You really take into account all of that full picture of the brain health umbrella. And what does that look like for our listeners and for our consumers and people that want to come and reach out to you and utilize that program?
Thank you for asking. So we are a company with the vision to provide purpose for brain health optimization. And our main services that we offer is classes that dive deep into different aspects of brain health provided by industry professionals on a variety of topics related to healthy aging, brain wellness, and memory care. So we do classes from happiness to meditation to nutrition to different exercise programs that include strength, cardio, Asian exercise, Tai Chi. We translate all the latest research as it becomes available online into essentially actionable steps that people can take into their daily lives. And this is for individuals of a variety of ages, also in providing some services that are appropriate for memory care as well. We offer free healthy brain checkups, which would also be dubbed a memory screen, and help people be able to access that and have some conversations about what that could mean for them and direct them for their next step of where they could go, or at least to get a baseline. And we hope to be a resource for people looking for more information about brain health and wellness for their personal journey.
One thing that I loved about your brain health screen was that they're free and they're confidential. A lot of times people are worried or have concern about what that might look like and want to go through this personal exploration before they might share that with people that they're close to. So I love that you guys highlight that and make that note on there that that is free and confidential for that checkup. Is that correct?
Yes, it is. And so we follow the Alzheimer's Foundation of America as a partner site with them. And from the past of doing a couple hundred of them with different people is letting them know it's a conversation afterwards of supporting them and giving them encouragement for whatever may have brought them in or guidance for where they need to go. But, memory screening has really been encouraged from Centers for Medicare and Medicaid for anyone over the age of 65, but also anyone that might have concerns about their brain health and wellness. And from my experiences, I've screened people from their 20s and above, realizing that, they want a baseline check. It's your information. And after we're done, I wouldn't know your screen from anybody else's that I would have administered. Mm-hmm. And so, we just like to at least open that conversation and get people to where they would need to go for any other information and follow up, whether it's a healthcare provider or a mental health professional, and hope to give them those resources.
Would you recommend people start with almost a baseline screen and then they can take that screen throughout the years to see change? Or is it something that they should take if they have concern? What are your thoughts on that?
People can do that both ways. And also on our website, we have links to some of the electronically available screens through the Cleveland Clinic, through Baycrest up in Canada as well. So if you would like to try some of the virtual type of screening that's computerized, those are available too. I always encourage people, if you're any type of concern or you just want to know, I'm a curious person by nature. Mm-hmm. I like to know. I have the philosophy that information is knowledge in some way. I know for my mother, when she was having her issues, which were some concern, getting that baseline was very important because the changes that came 1 to 2 years was the information that helped her move along services faster. So at times, there's never really a time that's too early to get established with a neurologist or anybody, because you never know what might happen in the future. Right. And I share that not as a scare tactic, but just because something was a little off. It was atypical for her in that situation. But I go to my neurologist fairly regularly. And when things pop up, I like to say, get my brain back a little more balanced when I need it. And so many of us value from different types of relationships, whether it's your primary care. For memory screens, I tell people the next physician they see, they can hand it off to, or you can keep it and have that information for the future. And so it's a nice way to at least start a conversation.
It is. That's good advice, that it's involving that whole team as well. And wherever you feel most comfortable sharing that information or getting more insight into that is up to their discretion and can be helpful.
That it can be. And providers are the ones that will know your history the best, your healthcare provider. They'll also know some other additional resources that would be available and tailored to you as well. And so those relationships are always worth their weight in gold.
Brain Health Awareness Week is coming up in March, and I noticed you are partnering with some really great people and companies in the aging space. Can you share with us a little bit more about what is going to be happening in the next month or two?
Oh, yes. So we are so excited for Brain Awareness Week. It's essentially a global celebration of the brain and all things brain health. And thanks to some amazing partnerships that we have with individuals in the aging care sector, neuroscientists, brain health experts, we are going to be able to offer 1 full week of free programming. So that will be March 15th through the 21st for individuals, and we'll be running programming 3 times a day. So 11 a.m., 2 p.m., and 7 p.m. Eastern time. And I'm just so excited about our amazing lineup and partnerships with people. And we'll be celebrating some different aspects about the brain with some different themes, from the creative brain to brain healthy living, the mind-body connection, movement in the brain, and of course, the amazing brain overall. And so I'm really looking forward to those events. People can visit our website at virtualbrainhealthcenter.com for all those event details and register for free to attend.
That's perfect. And the best way to wrap up our time today is directing people to you, how they can find you. We're going to include all of your social media links and website in our episode description for people to have access to. I know I have learned so much today. I was like counting down the days for our interview. I was so excited to be able to meet you and to visit with you. And I know it's such helpful information for our family members and for our older adults. Thank you for giving your time. I know you are creating this amazing business and resource for people, and we couldn't be happier that you took time out of your busy schedule to visit with us. So thank you so much.
I'm so appreciative for the opportunity to chat with you and share information about brain health and memory care with others. I hope this will be of value to your listeners. And if they have any questions, I hope they won't hesitate to reach out. Our goal is to be a resource around brain health and memory care for individuals and carers and their families. And so I hope this will help make a difference for people to just take one step for their own brain health and memory care and to make themselves a priority.
Exactly. And that's what we can all walk away from. Let's just commit to taking one step for our brain health. Thank you for listening today. If you enjoyed our episode, please subscribe and give us 5 stars. In all honesty, we'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much for listening to our episode.